Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon to everybody. Wherever you are, I hope you have a very wonderful lunch and also wonderful evening and afternoon. Okay, we are very fortunate today because we are having a very wonderful topic which is titled Engineering Education Research. Where do we start? Okay, but before we proceed further, let me just highlight to you that this special webinar is brought to you by UTM CEE and also Society of Engineering Educators Malaysia, as well as Academy Professor Malaysia. Okay, maybe there are some other people or maybe your friends who are not aware of this program. So please kindly share this information, share this YouTube channel to your friends. Okay. I would like also to mention that we are going to have the attendance form being distributed in the comment area. So please kindly fill it up because after the session, you will actually get an e-certificate. Okay, before we proceed further, let me just provide a very brief introduction about our speaker today. She is none other than Professor Dr. Fatin Alia Pang. Okay, she's actually the chair, School of Education, basically the #1 person in School of Education, Faculty Social Science and Humanities, FSSH. She is also the member of Young Scientist Network Academy, Science Malaysia. And she is also full fellow researcher for Center for Engineering Education Malaysia. If you have not subscribed to our UTM CEE YouTube channel, please kindly do so. Like, subscribe, and share this video. Okay, before that, I also would like to invite Professor Dr. Khairia Muhammad Yusof, which will be acting as the facilitator or chair, okay, to facilitate the discussion of the research. Okay, hi, Prof. Fatin and also Prof. Khairia, how are you?
Hi, thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Okay, so I believe both of you are ready, especially Prof. Fatin, you are already very, very excellently ready. But then, just to kick the ball rolling, you are basically from the Faculty of Education, School of Education, correct? So you are having the education background. How in the whole world that you can be involved in engineering education? Because you are not an engineer.
Oh, yeah, traditionally, thank you, Dr. Zaki. Assalamualaikum and good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Assalamualaikum, Prof. Haria. Thank you for having me today. Because that's a very good question. I think a lot of people thought about that as well. I did not know education before I even finished my PhD. I never heard about education when I was doing my PhD. Even I finished it, I didn't know about it. But as I joined an education in 2010, because before that, after I finished my PhD in 2009, the university asked me to help them with the PhD in engineering program. So you have to know that UTM is the first university in Asia to offer PhD in engineering program. So I was asked to help to evaluate some of the students. So that's the first time I heard about engineering education. And so I look around, like everyone is from engineering, and only like 1 or 2 of my colleagues are from education. So I was wondering why there's not many people in this field, and there's so much that we can contribute. So I started to be seriously joining education research in 2010, and I learned a lot. And in 2011, I joined CE as one of the fellows. Until today, I'm still the fellow. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful.
Sorry?
One of the original founding fellows.
Yeah, one of the original founding fellows. Okay, I would like to just say something here. Okay, we don't want to drag more time. Okay, so I'm just going to remind our viewers. Okay, please kindly listen to what Prof. Fatin is going to present. Okay, she's going to be together with Prof. Khairia. Okay, so please ask question. Jot down. You can ask the questions and put it in the comment area. Okay, and then later Prof. Fatin will be answering and responding to your questions. All right. At the same time, this talk is not necessarily directed for engineering lecturers or teachers or education lecturers. So if you are not then the educators from engineering and also school of education, so it's okay, you can just be here and then try to see what kind of research that you can contribute for the engineering education research, because this is also directly related to STEM, correct? Okay, so without further ado, I would like to pass the session to Prof. Khairia, okay, to facilitate the discussion.
Thank you, Dr. Zaki.
Okay. Assalamualaikum, Dr. Fatin. Nice to have you here.
Waalaikumsalam. Yes, long time no see.
Yeah, we see each other
Honestly.
virtually.
Yeah, physically, long time no see.
Yes, physically, yes, long time no see. I'm so happy to have Professor Dr. Fatin here with us. I'm sure you will enjoy her very informative talk because she has been involved in engineering education and setting up the Center for Engineering Education since its formation way back approximately 10 years ago. And Prof. Fatin has always been, my partner in crime whenever we want to do anything out of this world. And I really find talking to Fatin very useful because she will really question what I'm thinking and my thoughts and how to turn those things into research. If some people hear our conversations, they would think we were arguing. We were having an argument, but actually it was a debate and argument towards coming up with research. So anyway, Prof. Fatin is really, really well versed in educational research. In fact, she has been awarded the top research scientist by the Academy of Science Malaysia just last year, 2019. So, without further ado, let us listen to what she has to say. Over to you, Fatin.
Okay, Assalamualaikum. Thank you, Prof. Khairia. Yes, we started CE together. In fact, Prof. Khairia is the founding director of CE. I'm not the founding director or the fellow. I joined 1 year after CE was formed anyway. But 10 years working with education, with CE is a tremendous experience for me, and I learned a lot. It's something new. So when people ask education research, where do we start? How do we start? I always get the same answer from people from engineering. So today, what I'm going to talk about will be mainly targeting on engineering educators who are new in education. And so maybe those in education background, you can also listen to this talk because I'm going to share what you can contribute towards our colleagues in engineering teaching as well. So there will be two different set of audience, but mainly we'll focus on engineering educators who wish to start research in education. But before I go on, maybe we can show a question to our audience, Prof. Khairia.
Yep. Let's see the Multimeter.
So in your respective field of discipline, your discipline, okay, we forget about education, your field, and mechanical engineering, civil engineering, chemical engineering, STEM education, STEM, in your own field of discipline. So how do you start a meaningful or scholarly research study? So there are two choices there. Number one, do you start from whatever data that you can get? All right. And number two, do you start from the problem that you have identified? So here are two choices for you. You can go on and click on, go to www.menti.com. So www.menti.com and put in the code 86108. And you can start answering the first question. Just put your in your own field of study. Okay. So we wait for the audience to fill in the answer.
Okay, so two have managed to go in and answer. I'm not showing the result first. We will wait for all the answers and then show it. Okay.
So we don't want to influence the audience.
Yes. We want to hear your own answer.
Yes. So this is your own discipline, not education, but your own discipline of study. I'm sure you have your own discipline of study.
Okay. So we will give one more minute.
So 1 more minute to vote.
Yes.
Okay, this is the 9th webinar, right? The number 9th webinar for CE, right?
Yes. So we will have another one on the 17th, inshallah.
That's good.
So I'm sure you're going to learn a lot from this webinar.
There'll be another half a minute or less.
Yes, so
We're getting
20
feedback
seconds.
from people. We're getting feedback from the audience.
Yes, you can see the number here. So 20 has gone in and entered.
Okay.
Yes. Okay,
Right.
time's almost up, 24, 25. So let's show the result. Oops. Now my mouse doesn't want to go there. Wait, let me see here. Okay.
All right. Okay. So in your on-field study, okay, many you can see that we start from problem. Some of you say you start from data. So here we are. This is the problem I always face with people coming into me. I mean, especially I'm not saying anything negative about our colleagues in engineering. I'm just saying that in general, whenever we said, oh, let's do research, let's do some studies in education, and they will just come and show me a pile of data and say, I have this data, I have this research, I have this marks, or I have this whatever survey answers. So what can we do from here? I'm like, okay. So my first question would be, what is the problem you're trying to solve in your engineering education classes or whatever the issue that you want to solve? So I always have to ask that question, and I'm so sorry, it just somehow it turns down some people to want to go into engineering education study, because we know that when you want to do meaningful study, you will always have to start with a problem. That's why your thesis, your journal papers always start with problem background, right? You're not starting with data, okay? So to answer the question of the title of this webinar, education research, where do we start? We start from problem. I think that's clear, right? Is it all right, Prof. Aria? So we start with the first question.
Okay, so we'll go to the slides, yeah?
Yep, I'm going to the slide. So I want to share the slide now. 1 second. Okay.
Okay, so we will have the magic of having
So
your
can you see the slide now?
Okay, so
all right.
over to you,
Is the slide clear, Prof. Aria?
Yes, very clear.
Right. Is the slide clear? Yeah, clear. All right. So basically, when we say we start from data and not from the problem, we call it reverse engineering. You're trying to reverse engineer the whole study, where you don't even know the problem. You just say, I got data. I know my students say they're happy with this or they are not happy with certain things. So I'm just going to sort of write a paper based on that, and then turn into some sort of research. That's what we call reverse engineering, because when you reverse, you end up not knowing what is the real problem you're trying to solve. But when you come to once you reverse engineer, you go back to the problem, then you start at the point where actually what's the problem, and then when you're clear with the problem, your data actually doesn't match with the problem. This is what we call reverse engineering. So let me repeat once more. What happened when you start with your data, you end up not matching your problems. So you start data, and then as you reverse it from data to instrument, and then to problems to literature, and then you end up like there actually no literature or no problems or no reports that actually support what you're trying to study. So you end up no problem, no alignment. So that's why we don't want you to do reverse engineering in engineering study. Okay, that's what we don't want to do. We start with problem. Now, problems. There are so many problems in engineering. As put EE. EE is engineering education practice. So I'm just gonna say EE from now. Okay, problems in EE practice. If you are engineering if you're engineering educators, okay, you know there's problems. Simple problems like how people learn. You want to teach them, but you don't know how they learn. So you want to know how they learn, so you can help them to learn better. So that's that's the very common problems for many of our engineering educators. And maybe you want to ask how to teach. You have problem of how to teach or how to train your engineers, your students, okay, your lecturers, your engineering lecturers. So you want to know how to teach, how to train or how to teach your students. So other problems like, do you think maybe you have problems, your question you're not sure, is motivation one of the factor that affect the students' learning? So you want to know how actually motivation affect learning. Or you want to ask, I'm interested to get more children to join engineering in the future, but how do they understand engineering? So that's one problem. Maybe you want to know, and how professional engineers solve problems. That's also another problem, and some of these like why women drop out of engineering practice. So they finish the degree as engineers, professional engineers, graduate engineers, but at the end they did not practice engineering. So you want to know why they did not do that, why they end up not doing engineering, not practicing engineering. So these are problems that you can study. So in EE, there's a wide scope of problems that you can study. In EE research, there are a lot of things you can do. That's why I actually, all this, I have to learn. I did not know this. It's a new area for me as well. You have to understand that even I'm from education, all right, I still have to understand engineering practice. If not, I cannot help my colleagues. So if you are expert in educational studies research, you have to understand what is engineering, how engineering is practiced. You don't necessarily have to understand the knowledge of engineering. Like you don't have to understand the calculus if you don't want to. You don't have to understand all the thermodynamics if you don't want to. But at least you have to understand what is their role, how they use the knowledge and so on. So that's why our role as educators and education researchers, we have to help them to make sense of what the problems they're facing and how to link them into teaching and learning. Now, that's why it's a new area for me that I'll have to learn from beginning, and it's a what people call it not comfortable zone, your uncomfortable zone. So that's why I can see that so many people from education are not trying to work together with our engineering colleagues, but actually it's a very interesting, fun, and for me it's a, although it's challenging, but it's something really worthwhile and rewarding, I would say. If once you can understand how they look at education and education research, then you see there's a lot of things that you can contribute. And for our colleagues from engineering, we are here to help you. Okay, we really want to understand the problems. You can always talk to us. I know you may face problems like what jargons are you talking about? Like why is it important for you to have specific terms that you have to argue over one or two specific terms? Yes, some of them we have to talk about, but we will try our best to make it simple for you to understand. And so this is my role. I have to learn. I have to learn to help my colleagues in engineering to understand education research, educational theories, and models, so they can use them in their studies. Now, if you look at EE practice and EE research, there are so much you can do, a very big scope. Now, if you look at simple one, people always confine it to university students studying engineering, maybe school doing STEM. But if you look wider, you have workplace. So you can have engineers working. So how you can improve them at home. At home, how do you get into the design thinking, the problem solving, the analysis, how to become analytical? So all this is a wide spectrum, wide scope of EE studies, EE research. So to make it simple, EE research is, or EE basically is to understand, including thinking, defining, identifying, and to share teaching, learning, training, engineering knowledge across any stage of life. So to understand and to share engineering knowledge across any stage of life. So if you want to look at how students understand engineering, how lecturers teach engineering topics, so that's one segment or one scope. At school also to understand the process of engineering thinking, engineering process, design thinking, that's also a part of it. At home as well, okay, how they understand, how children understand engineering, okay. At a workplace, how to train engineers, what are their problems they face, how they transfer the knowledge they learn at university into workplace, and so on. So all these areas that you can study in EE. research. Okay, now, so why you want to do EE research? Why you have to do? As I said just now, for us from education, it's very rewarding because you can help our friends in engineering. For engineering, engineering educators, it helps you to develop your practice, okay, to become better in teaching and learning. Now, why doing research? Everyone is talking about 21st century learning skills, and I think many of you are familiar with this figure. It's from the World Economic Forum. There's a report in 2015 talking about future jobs, and these are the skills that our students will have to acquire. Um, our future workers, our future graduates, our future generation, they should have this skill. They have to understand literacy, numeracy, scientific literacy, ICT, financial, and cultural literacy. It's literacy, how they apply the skill in their everyday task. Now, look at these competencies. They should be able to be able to solve problems, think critically, creatively, be able to communicate, to collaborate. So these are the competencies, and then they have to have the characteristic that, or the quality to achieve better, to survive in this new century. They have to be curious, initiative, persistent, adaptability, leadership, and social awareness. Now, and above all, they have to be able to be a lifelong learner. Now, this skill, do you think they can just get it by lectures, simple rote learning, memorization, exams, just from exams? I think that's why people are now going towards more student-centered kind of approach, because many studies show that this kind of teaching method, the student-centered learning approach, is better to develop all these 21st century skills. So you may ask how you want to improve your own teaching. What are the methods that you can use? So is my method going to be effective? So if I try this, can I develop critical thinking? If I try this, can I develop creativity? So you are starting to have these questions because the demand of having our students to acquire all these skills, you start to question yourself as an engineering educators. How do I help them? As you ask those questions, you want to know, if I try this method, will it be successful? Will it be effective? Can I develop the skills for my students? So to answer all these questions, you need to do research. So that is the very first reason why you want to involve in EE research. Honestly, I'm telling you, you really have to think about this, okay? Because we don't want your students to left behind in these new centuries, okay? And people are talking about education 4.0, all the pedagogy, pedagogy, cybergogy, all these terms are coming in, and we need to understand them at some point. So how these 4IRs technologies are facilitating the learning, how effective it's going to be, how we're going to make it better in our teaching and learning, how our students can gain the computational thinking, the skills, the programming. So why our students dislike programming, how to overcome that, how to motivate them to learn programming. So all these things you need to do research. And this a lot to do with EE research. And now we have a lot of research grants targeting on EE. This is one of them. It's quite a lot of funding. Okay, millions of pounds are given up to do studies on EE. Royal Academy of Engineering, I'm very proud to say that our center CEE, Prof. Hairia, she led a proposal, and she got the funding from RAE to improve EE in Indonesia. So there's a lot of avenue for us to apply for funding. So that's another reason. And academic positions. Now we have a lot of requests from other countries, even in Malaysia, that come and ask, because we are the first university in Asia to offer PhD in education. And so they ask us, where are your graduates? Can we employ them? Because we need somebody to help us to design our curriculum, engineering curriculum. We need people to help us to look at how to improve the assessment of our curriculum, our studies, our learning, our students. So people from EE are being sought after. So if now if you are doing a master now, or you're thinking of furthering study, and you're from engineering background, and better if you are teaching engineering at colleges or whatever. If you want to do a PhD, think about doing PhD in EE. I'm not selling it because we are offering this program, but think about it. This is the way for you to change the world, for you to make engineering better. And there's a lot of position like postdoctoral position, research officers, lecturers. They are looking for EE now. So there's a lot of reason why you have to be involved in EE. And now you have in UTM and a lot of university in Malaysia, we are going towards differentiated career path. Okay, and one of the path is teaching track. So your teaching track, maybe research track, leadership track, professional services track. There's so many tracks at the moment, and for you to go towards promotion in teaching track, you need to be well versed in how to do research and how to look at problems and solution for engineering education if you are teaching engineering. So that's why there's a lot of reason why you have to be involved, and I think we can help you in many ways since we have the experience of doing that for 10 years. Okay, now if you look at the virtual cycle, this from ASEE, a report from ASEE. This slide is designed by David Radcliffe. Basically, when you look at this cycle, this is a very normal cycle. Think about yourself as an engineer educator. Okay, you are practicing your teaching and learning education practice. Your educational practice. You are teaching. You are looking at your students. You're doing reflection and so on. And you look at your students, why they are not learning well, why they cannot do team working, why they cannot get certain skills. So you have all these questions. Okay, so this question will lead to you to study the why, the how. Okay, and then the result give you answers, and so this answer will help you to improve your practice. So look at the cycle. Okay, you are practicing it, you have problems, and then you try to do some study on it, try to solve the problems, you got the answers, and you put in the answer into your practice. So you keep improving. This is how you keep improving. So that's the virtual cycle of research and practice. Your practice and your research are working hand in hand. Okay, now like we can go back to the questions again. Okay, so in your practice you see all these problems, you want to solve the problems, you want to do research, but stop before you're doing that. Stop first, because when you look at all these problems, you have to ask yourself some more questions. I'm not the only one who thought about these problems, right? I'm not the only one who thought about these questions. Somebody must have done it. Somebody must have thought about it. Somebody must have tried to solve it, right? So this is where you have to start looking at literature, look at theories, look at previous studies, look at what people have done. So you have to link all this to the theories, right? From problems to theories. How people learn. Actually, how people learn is a framework. There's a framework called How People Learn. Okay, Design is a book published anyway. Okay, and so you have this one. This the complete set of explanation of how people learn. Obviously, there's also so many others learning theories, like if you heard about behaviorism, heard about constructivism. All these theories, learning theories, are how people learn. So it gives you insight of how people actually learn. And so what have you understand from that process? Is it translated into your students' learning? So have you used the theory to solve the problems to improve your students' learning? So that's how you see the problems and the theories link. How to teach, how to train. There are so many framework, so many approaches of how to teach effectively. So you can use that. You can bring that from the theories and put into your practice. It may or it may not solve the problem. Okay, how to motivate students? There are, if I'm not mistaken, thousands of theories, models, and framework about motivation. Okay, and to understand concept. So there are so many theories out there, but you have to link your problems with theories. Now, this is one problem that I always see my colleagues in engineering practice that who are trying to do EE, is that in engineering research, you may only have one or two theories, the most two theories. You don't even have to talk about the theories like extensively. Okay, but I'm so sorry, in education you have like tons of theories you have to talk about, and you have to say why you pick certain theory over the other theories. Okay, so it's a bit of struggle. That's why I really respect Prof. Hairia, because she took the time and the effort to learn all the theories, although it's really difficult for her to understand. But through her effort, she asked around, she went to courses, she read papers, trying to understand that. So it's a now today I can talk to her about constructivism. That she's fine to talk about constructivism with me. Like, wow, so it's a big word. But actually, if you understand constructivism, it's actually not a big word. Okay, so that's why you have to, for people from engineering discipline to want to venture into EE, you somehow have to understand some theories, because ultimately theories will affect your problems that you want to study and your research design. How does it happen? So this is the RREE, rigorous research in education approach from the US. Look at this. In practice, okay, your practice and the impact to students. You see problems, you want to solve the problems, and you look at the theories, look at the previous studies, how you can follow up from there. Maybe there are solutions there. Maybe the solutions are not quite up to the context or your problems. So you might want to further a bit on the theories and do your research. So your research is rigorous and guided. From the result, you can impact your practice and also the theory. Okay. Again, if you do good research, if you can identify a good problem, you can link to the theory effectively, and you do rigorous research, you can produce two contributions. Number one is contribution towards the practice. Number two is to contribute towards new knowledge, new understanding, new theories, okay, new, what you call it, a piece of, it's a novelty, new piece of understanding of new knowledge about engineering education. So these are the links between these three. What happened usually is we have practice and research. People always forget about theory. It's like, oh, I see my student cannot understand this topic, so I just gonna do something, and I just gonna do an experimental study. I'm gonna do a survey before and a survey after, and that's it. I just gonna publish a paper. I'm so sorry. The paper is all right, okay, but what is the research has to do with previous study, and how does the previous study influence the decision of your problems, your research method, and the result? How you going to link them? So try to put into the theory. I know it's difficult, but it's doable, and you don't have to master thousands of theory to do that. Even with one sound theory, okay, you can do a lot of different type of research. I can talk about it later. But for now, please do not just focus on the practice and the research only. But you have to look at the theory, make it grounded so that your research is impactful, contributing, and significant. Now, when you do your EE research, you have to have your purpose, that you want to solve problem or you want to establish facts. And so you do your research, and at the end, it make decisions. We don't want to see people doing research, EE research, and then end up it's just to say that, okay, we have done this, and so what? Okay, what is the result has to do with your practice? What kind of educational decisions are you going to make from your study, either in your teaching, in the curriculum, in the assessment, and so on. So have this in mind, that you want to solve problem, you conduct the study, and the study should make some impact towards your practice at least, and better towards the theory. Okay. Now you can. This is kind of like a flow chart for decision making. Okay, for you to identify problems in research. Now look at the top here. So say you want to propose a problem. You want to say, I don't know, so you want to say, you want to look at my students, they cannot work in a team properly. So whenever you put it in the team, they just end up arguing, they don't learn, people are doing different things, they don't work together. So you say, is there a problem? Yes, there's a problem. Okay. Is the problem important? Yes, it's important. If it's no, then you have to find new problem. Okay. So your problem must be important, right? If it's not important, then you don't do research. You don't do research to solve problems that are not significant or not important. Of course, when you want to say yes, you need to have support and references to support your answer. And then if it's important, obviously somebody has been doing it. It wouldn't be like, it wouldn't be you the only person or I'm the only person in the whole world to have thought about that problem. Somebody must have thought about the problem if it's important, right? So they will ask the question like, has it been addressed before? Now this, you go to the teacher, you look at how people solve it. Okay. So if there's no, I think it will be very unlikely to have a no. If it's a no, then you found your research problem, then you can start your research. But if they yes, then you will ask yourself, is there a solution? So from the literature, from what people have talked about or tried to solve the problem, have you found the solution that you can use in your context, in your area, in your study? Okay. So if it's a no, then that's good. But if a yes, the next question to ask yourself, are you happy? Are you satisfied with the solution? If you are happy with the solution, then you have to go and find a new problem. Okay. But if it's no, then congratulations, we have found a problem that worth studying for EE research. So think about it. Always start your EE research with problem, not actually from data. Okay, so really think about that. Now, I would just want to share the difference between experience sharing and rigorous research. What I talked about just now is a lot on rigorous research. Okay, we talk about new findings, contribution to new knowledge, rich literature review, strong foundational theory, significant and original. So this segment, the rigorous research, this segment is if you have good grounding in theory, rigorous research methodology, and sound problems, you end up doing rigorous research, which is good because you are contributing to knowledge. People will cite your paper, people will cite your research, okay, and you're contributing, right? But obviously, for many new beginners, okay, you will start from experience sharing. This is what I learned from Prof. Hairia. She started her EE adventure from sharing, experience sharing. So what you're trying to do in experience sharing is you share useful teaching and learning experience, which contribute to practice, but it should be backed by theory and data. Again, when I talk about backed by theory, it's not like it must be backed by grand theories, or what. At least you look at what people have done, what have been said is effective, right? They have a model or framework approach, a set of model or framework that you can follow, which proven to be effective. Then you use the theory and you put into your practice, and then you collect some data to support your assumption, right? And so maybe you get a new teaching techniques or learning techniques. You may get to that. If not, you can just share what you have learned. What are the good things you learn? What are the things other educators should avoid? So this is a spectrum. I was really just experience sharing until rigorous research. It's a spectrum, not that you can just fit into two boxes. It's that you can be here, experience sharing. We have some very, very, what we call it, less scholarly experience sharing, where they are just sharing what they've been doing in their class. Okay, so it's like you said, I've done case study. So this is my case study. This is how I did it, and this is my student response. So they will be very, what we call it, quite surface kind of sharing. All right, but as you move higher, now I'm doing case study. Why I doing case study? Because there's a theory saying that if I doing case study, I get blah 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 blah, and so I gonna collect data to see if after I've done it, did I get all these effects as set by the theory. So I go one step by referring my practice to theory and design my case study. And with the assumption that if I follow the design, I follow the case studies method, and I get, say, for example, problem solving skills. So I measure problem solving skills. So this is assumption. So if I use this theory, I follow this method of doing case study. Based on theory, I will get improved problem solving skills. So in doing this, I will study my students' problem solving skills at the end of doing the case study. So this is a higher level of experience sharing. A better one would be like, okay, some theory said case study is good to learn problem solving skills. Now I want to know how actually problem solving skill is developed from case study. So I try to look at the literature. So some previous researchers give me the ideas of how it's done, but for me, I'm not satisfied because it's not complete. The idea, the framework of how problem solving skill is developed from case study is not very clear to me. There's still some areas that need to be studied to fill in the gap, or if I use new perspective of looking at case study, it will be different way of looking problem solving skills. So the result will be different. Or I'm like saying, okay, I maybe want to look at team-based problem solving for case study. So no one have done it. I want to have a look at it, how it actually developed. So I do my rigorous research and found out a new framework, a new steps, new whatever. It's a new contribution to knowledge that if we're doing these certain steps, then I can ensure that using this type of case study, this method of doing case study, I can develop team-based problem solving skills. So you are moving toward a spectrum. I'm saying this to be very rough. These are just very rough ideas. There are always different way of looking at what I'm saying. But you can see the spectrum from simple experience sharing to scholarly experience sharing, and then towards rigorous research. I hope it's clear. If not, you can ask more questions after this. Now, I want you to also to understand the difference between doing assessment and doing research. Now, I'll talk about research first. As many of you who have gone through engineering research, you know that doing research, ultimate goal is to break new ground, or to innovate, or to contribute new knowledge. So if I say doing research in EE is to improve educational practice and our understanding of how people learn, of how people teach or whatever. So this is in EE. So what you end up with be new knowledge, replicable research, can be documented, can be peer reviewed, has significant impact, and it requires some higher level expertise. That's why to move towards research it's something, it's an uphill battle, but it's something that you can do if we work together, engineering educators and education researchers work together. I'll talk about how to work together later. But if you look at the other side, the assessment. So assessment just systematically gather educational relevant information to measure students' attributes. So you want to look at just certain skills, certain knowledge, certain attitudes from the students after you have given them certain programs or intervention, all right? And the assessment data is used to make informed curricular or instructional decision, right? It's not for you to publish as a peer-reviewed journal papers, so people can use your framework or your findings, but it's actually something that you can share for other people to practice to improve their decision as well. So this is a difference between assessment and research. So let me say again, right? So we go back to the case study. Then you're using case study, right? You use case study and you want to see problem solving skill. So now your intervention or program is case study. The attributes you want to measure is problem solving skill. So you are trying to assess, does case study improve problem solving skills? So this is on the spectrum of assessment. But on research, you are trying to find out how it actually developed, so people can replicate your study and look at how they can use your model to improve problem solving skills. So you can see the two different spectrum of assessment and research. So I think I want to stop here for now. We can take some questions. So I pass it to you, Prof. Hairia. Are you here?
Yes.
Yes. Are you okay?
Yep. Yes, we can take questions. Any questions from the audience? I think they are bowled over by by what you played. I hope nobody has given up. Okay. Anyway,
Okay. It's not a question.
Okay, so what are the, maybe you can talk about the different research methods, Prof. Fatin?
Okay, so different research method, there's a spectrum of research method, but for beginners, it's easy to say that it's just for beginners, okay? It's easy to say that to do research, you have quantitative and the qualitative, where we that data collection and analysis, I would say that. For example, the simple method you use is survey. Survey mostly is you are collecting quantitative data. So you end up using either a questionnaire or a test. So if you're doing questionnaire, meaning that you are collecting perception, which has no right or wrong answer. And if you're doing a test to do a survey, you are collecting responses that have right and wrong answers. So you are trying to do survey and understand what people perceive or understand or know what their knowledge. So you are doing survey. That's number one. You can do survey. Number two, you can do experimental studies. So experimental study, you design your experiment to study if certain program or intervention or method works or not. So you're gonna have, there's so many design. You have one group pre and post test design. You have random sampling design. You have so many types of design. Okay, but what you're trying to do is to see if certain programs or intervention going to work. So you're gonna collect data usually before the intervention and then after the intervention. Some may prolong it to a few data collection to look at the sustainability of that programs. So that's one way. So another one you can try is to do interview. You want to collect qualitative data. Usually you're gonna get qualitative data to see how they understand, how your participant or your students or lecturers understand certain topics. Like for example, their perception about their lecturers. Okay, you want to know some qualitative, more in-depth data. Okay, or you can do observation. Then the method is observation. You sit in the classroom, you sit in the workplace, you go around. You're gonna have either a video recording with the consent of the participant or just a piece of paper to write all the responses. So this is using observation. There's so many other methods using reflective journals, using their logbooks, studying their documents. There's so many ways of doing it. But what I'm saying now is just methods. You only have strategy, something else, but this is just about methods. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, and the methods is always decided by the problem.
Yes, not randomly that I've done it. No, it's not like that.
Yeah, you don't choose the method before the identifying the problem.
Yes.
We have two other questions here. Okay,
Yeah,
how
I
do
think
you
I
know
don't
that
know.
our research topic is suitable for PhD level? And what is the minimum duration for PhD in
Okay,
engineering?
I think this is from Prof. Aduwati from UPM. I think I know her. We are from a Young Scientist Network. So how do you know if this for PhD level? Okay, you ask any discipline, any PhD programs, the question will always come down to ask, is your PhD novel, original, right? Contribute to new knowledge. So it's the same. You're gonna have the same questions again. If you're doing a PhD in EE, you are going to answer. You are going to solve problems that are going to contribute to new knowledge. So how you know your research topic is still a PhD level? You can go through the flowchart I showed just now. Will it end up being significant, contributing, impactful, and produce new knowledge? So that's number one. And what is the minimum duration for PhD in EE? I don't know about other universities, but at UTM, the fastest you can go is 5 semesters or 2.5 years, right? Usually 3 years and so on. So I think we are doing a very conventional PhD at UTM. So that's our duration. I'm not sure about other university. Maybe in the US, you are doing 4 years 2 years of courses and 2 years of dissertation, right, Prof. Haria? You know better in the US. So there's another question from Zurina.
Yes, Zurina Zainal Abidin. Okay, it's quite hard to be persistent since scientific research also takes time. Can we do both or have
Both
to choose
meaning?
one?
Oh, I think this is
Yes.
Prof. Haria's question. This is for you to answer. You are from that kind of background that you know where to divide your time and priority to do research. I don't think I can answer that properly. Maybe Prof. Haria would want to respond on that question.
Okay. Do it slowly. Do it slowly to see if you're really interested. My research now, I still have my engineering research. I have a PhD student. I have one PhD student and one master student in chemical engineering, but the rest are all in engineering education. So there's still a small part of my research that is still in chemical engineering, but I devote a lot of time for my education, engineering research. To do that, I work with other people. So even
Yes.
with my master students and my PhD students, they have co-supervisors, so that if in the event that I'm not available, then they will know that there is somebody else they can turn to. But then we try to have regular meetings and regular discussions. But it takes time. Initially, it will take time for you to learn. It took some time for me to learn. So before we can reach that educational level, rigorous research level, always be part of a community, because being part of a community will help you do it faster.
Yeah, so this I think that is a very good answer, because I think I see what Prof. Haria been through, and yes, we work together, and I answer a lot of questions and also ask a lot of questions. Okay, but no, honestly, you really have to have friends or partners or colleagues from education discipline to work together and help you to go through it, because it's like you only need to think a lot about the discipline, like the knowledge parts and the problems part, and how to practice, and you leave the rigorous research part to your partners in education, but at the same time you learn from them, learn from them how they do it and how to understand the way that they do things, and I think this kind of synergy is very important. In Malaysia, we don't see this kind of interdiscipline and this kind of transdiscipline practice. So I think it would be nice. And I know a lot of universities have engineering faculties and also education faculties. So why not work together? If there's no education faculties, you always have social sciences or humanities faculties, which they can help you. Because, like for example, Prof. Harry, if you can correct me if I'm wrong. There's a project by NSF, the National Science Foundation. They are working between engineers and social scientists from Washington University, right? Yeah. So I think work together, but at the same time, you do not stop practicing your own engineering disciplines. You can still maintain it. But in education part, you work together with your colleagues from education and set up the community. Yeah.
Yes. And actually, you have to know what the output should look like, because since we are the practitioners, we are the ones who will be using it. So we need to understand what the research is about, so that we know how what the problem should look like and what the research questions should look like, and have an idea what the end of the research the result would look like, what kind of result we want, so that we can use it. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
You want to throw the second questions to them, Prof. Haria?
There's another question. Okay. Because okay, fine. Can we do research in program learning outcome among the students after they do internship program, before they go to intern and after intern? Okay, this is like pre-post. You want to see the impact of the internship program.
You can always do any research you want to do, but the thing will boil down to what is the problem you want to solve. Honestly,
Yes.
you can do any research you want to do. You can collect any data you to do. You can collect. You can analyze any kind of data you to analyze. There's always no problem to do that. Okay, but it always boils down the question of what is the problem? Why you want to know the program learning outcomes? Is there a problem with the internship program? Is the internship program not achieving the problem learning outcome, the learning outcomes that you have designed for them? Is that a problem? Can you think about the problem? And before you want to venture into collecting the data of the learning outcomes before and after the internship program. I think that would be more important for you to think about rather than think about do you want to do it or not. I think that's a good research you want to do. Maybe you can look at the problem is because you want to know, say for example, you are doing internship program at your university for your students. And you're not sure how long you want it to be, how long you should conduct it so that they can achieve the learning outcomes you want them to achieve. So that would be a more significant problem for you to want to study. So you want to look at the duration and the learning outcomes achievement. So that is the problem you want to study. And so then you're going to design your study, going to look at your previous studies. Is there a significant impact between the duration and the learning outcomes achievement? Before you design your own study, that do you want to collect the data from there? So that will be more meaningful for you to do.
Yeah. By the way, we have done, Prof. Aten and I, we have done a study on internship programs in Malaysia, not just limited to engineering, but this is under ACAP. It was under ACAP, and we have a research report, maybe if you want to look at it. And I think there's a PhD students doing something on internship also in the School of Education now, right, Dr. Fatin?
Yep.
She graduated? Maybe she has finished by now.
Maybe she finished. No, she's not with us. She's with the management faculty. The management faculty. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so maybe we should go on and we will save your questions. We have more questions, but we can.
We'll ask them the question. We're gonna ask them question.
Yes, so we will ask the question on Mentimeter first. So let's look at the Mentimeter.
Yep. So again, go to www.menti.com and use the same code at 6108. Now the question is very simple. I think you can answer it just like that because you have been doing it in your own discipline. So in your own discipline, whatever discipline you're in, what are the criteria of a meaningful or scholarly research that are accepted by the community in your area, your own research area? Okay, what are the criteria? Scholarly research. What are the criteria to call your study a scholarly study? A scholarly study. Just type any answers.
Okay, so any words that can represent the criteria for a meaningful research.
So you have now we have 2 persons answering.
Yes.
You can type as many as you like, not just one answer. Okay, just keep typing whatever that it comes across your mind.
Yes, I think you can type 3 at one go.
Did they get the Mentimeter?
Yes.
Okay. Also, we have
Okay.
past 1 hours now.
Yes. Now let me see if we should put in the timer now. It's already 6. We will let's have about 1 more minute. Take a guess. What do you think is is the criteria for good research?
Yeah, for your own discipline, in your own discipline. You don't have to think about EE. Just your own discipline. You know better your own discipline. All right, another half a minute to go.
Okay, 10 more seconds. Okay,
Right.
let's look at the answer.
Impactful, contribution, okay, impact, align, contribute knowledge, significant contribution, okay,
Deep.
yep, novel, valid, generalizable, significant, yep. I think those are all valid answers. Yep. So I think we are on the right track. You know what
Yes.
is meaningful. You know what is a You know what is a meaningful study should be like. So I was just gonna share my slide. Is that all right?
Yep. Okay, so over to you, Dr.
All right.
Fatin. So I
Thank
should be getting out of here.
It's all right. I'm gonna see you anyway.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So meaningful research, like most of you have talked about, scientific,
Oh,
valid.
sorry,
Sorry,
Fatin, you need to share your slide again.
I'm sharing already.
Already shared.
Um, is Dr. Nina behind the scene? Are you sharing my slides?
Yeah, because maybe did you unshare just now?
I unshare just now. I'm sharing or I shared already. Should I do it
Okay.
again? I stop again. Okay, I stop again and I'll do it again.
Yes.
I'm gonna share again.
The technological magic takes time.
I'm all right. I'm not a digital native, but I think I'm all right. Are you looking at the slide now? Is the slide on?
No, it's
Dr.
still
Nina,
magic.
Dr.
Dr.
Nina,
Nina,
can you switch? Dr. Nina, can you switch, please? Is Dr. Nina there? I think she has to switch. One second. Dr. Nina, can we switch? Okay, let's try one more time. Sorry for the technical error. Right. I think you can see the screen now, right? Can you see the slides? Should I continue? Okay, I think I got the answer. Okay, I'm just gonna continue. Somebody can stop me if the slide is not working. So meaningful research, you talk about valid, right? Rigorous, scientific. It should be scientific, not just randomly any way of doing it, but it should be scientific, right? Practical, solve issues, solve problems, like you say, contribution, right? Um, it's you contribute to the body of knowledge, so it's novel, and significant contribution. Okay, it can be used to improve certain areas of practice. So these are some of the criteria that we talk about when you do any kind of studies, any discipline. And if you look at the NRC's guideline on scientific and rigorous research in education, first you have to pose significant questions that can be answered empirically, right? And can link to theory. You use methods that can investigate the questions, provide a coherent and explicit chain of reasoning, and it can be replicated and generalized across studies. So you can disclose or you can disseminate your research to the community of practice or the professional community for them to criticize, for them to review. So these are some of the scientific and rigorous research in education guideline. Okay, I think it's not very different from other discipline, from STEM, from engineering, for science. So it's not different. You still have to pose important questions. You still have to link your research to theory. You still have to use scientific methods. You still have to reason. You still have to ensure your study can be replicated, is valid, is reliable. You still have to share your research result or your research to your community for them to review and to criticize. So I think we are not very different. And so in education research, you are looking at similar kind of scientific steps or scientific inquiry for you to answer questions or solve problems. So you're going to see things like, first, identify the problem. In any discipline, as far as I know, in any discipline, I'm not talking about EE only, but in any discipline, the first step for you to do research is to identify the problem. You always try to identify the problem first, and then you're going to conduct literature review to establish the theories and to connect the problems. And then you're going to design the methodology, you're going to analyze the data, you're going to find the conclusion. So I think these are the similar steps that you are doing in any field of studies. This is what we call the scientific research step for you to solve problem. Because remember, if you ask anyone about research, what is the purpose of research? Usually you end up answer that doing research is to solve problems. So if you want to solve a problem, the very first step to solve problem is to identify a problem. And so you're gonna identify problem from your literature, and then formulate research questions or objectives. And then you're going to design your methodology, your research procedure, and then you're going to collect data, you're going to analyze your data, and then you're going to answer your research questions and come up with a conclusion. So I think these steps are not alien to you. I think you know about this step, and you are quite familiar with this. If you are doing research, you are familiar with research in any discipline. And so in doing EE, we are not very different from you. First, identify the problems, literature review, research methodology, data analysis, and conclusion. I think this is a very quite universal steps for us to do to conduct research and to solve problems, because ultimately doing research is to solve problems. So first, identify the problems, and then conduct literature review, and then design your method, collect data, analyze data, and conclude if you have solved the problems. And so this cycle you can keep going. So the first part here will be a lot to do with practice and theories, and this part here will be a lot to do with your research methodology. And so you will be very good, you'll be quite good in this area if you're from engineering practice. Okay, me, I'm not going to be very good here. If we talk about EE research, right, I will be able to help you in this part a lot, right? This part, the methodology and the analysis, whereas I need you to help me with this part, and together we work on the theories. Okay, so this is the cycle that we can work together between engineering educators and education researchers. So I think, and this model is not too far from what engineering lecturers are practicing. The only difference is on the literature review, where you have to look at tons of theories. I'm not saying tons like literally tons. I'm saying like a lot of theories that you have to look at, understand, and to choose from. And so this part will be a bit different. Okay, this we can do together. And so you're going to have this cycle of doing research in EE, which is, for me, is something that you can do. I mean, engineering educators can do, because you are familiar with the steps of solving problems and doing research. But we can help in terms of literature review and the research method part. So I'm just going to share with you some of the studies that our colleagues are doing in their engineering educators are doing. Right now, Prof. Hairia is I'm picking from Prof. Hairia's research. Of course, she can talk more about it, and she has shared it in one of her webinar series anyway. What I'm going to talk about is that she is having a problem to teach her student on a very difficult topic, which is process control in chemical engineering. Students keep on failing the subject, or not getting good grades in that subject. So she found that there's a way of students to go deep and learn the topic themselves. This is what she learned that about PBL, problem-based learning. But problem-based learning is typically done in medical school, started in medical school, and there's a process of doing it. It's a very lonely process because you have to learn yourself, you have to identify problem yourself, and you always go back to your tutor or your lecturer. So this is what a lot of PBL model initially the initial PBL model. So meet the problem, identify a problem, and then a lot of self-directed learning, and then later peer teaching and presentation and closure. So this is the step that she has found typically for PBL. And she found that this is all the phases. And then she found that actually to solve problems, you need to have groups of people doing it. And she always end up students are not working effectively in groups. And so she has to learn about how people learn in groups. Okay, so the performance level of group work. So they look at the theories, looking at the previous study, or people talk about group works. And so she found that there's 5 principles in cooperative learning. And so she looked at PBL, she looked at cooperative learning, and she found that you can have individual level of knowledge construction, and then you can go to the team level, and then the overall class level. So she put those together, and she came up with a new model. She called it cooperative problem-based learning. So you understand, when you want to solve problems, you need to refer to theories. You need to refer to some of the fundamentals, principles in education, because you are solving problems of people, how people learn. So you have to get back to theories and fundamentals of how people learn. And PBL is one of them. Cooperative learning is one of them. And so she thought that by doing that, by combining 2 of them, it will become more effective, especially in a large engineering classroom. Because PBL initially was done in small group of medical students. But for her class is like 30 to 60 students. It's a big group of students. So and she's the only one who's teaching. So how she can ensure that learning still happen using PBL, but more effective in teams. So CPBL is the new model, and she obviously has to test out her assumption of combining these 2 theories or combining these 2 models, and how effective are they in learning. So first she studied the learning, she studied the problem solving, she studied the motivation. I'm going to talk about more on that, and how she actually expand from there, right? And continue on that. There's another PhD student, or one of our first graduates in PhD education at UTM. So he studied the CPBL, and he's looking just one factor, okay, how actually CPBL develop problem solving skills in team, right? There was no terms like team based problem solving. Those are like it wasn't there back in 2007, right? But what he trying to do is he just want to look at how problem solving skills is developed through CPBL. And when he look at literatures in problem solving, there's teamwork you can do in team. So there's something about teamwork. So he looked at some of the principles in teamwork using the literature from Carl Smith and Johnson. So they have some literature on teamworking, or the framework. And then problem solving elements from Jonathan, and motivation. Actually, there's motivation elements. So he looked at Pintrich. So when you combine these 3 theories to study problem solving development in CPBL, he also end up like getting in problem solving assets. And so he found that for them to become to develop problem solving skills, right, you have to ensure that they are motivated, they can work effectively in team, and they can understand problems in terms of the knowledge, the process, and the confidence. And so this is the end result from the study, where he found that for them to develop the problem-solving asset, the confidence, the knowledge, and the process, CPBL can help because there's team working, there's learning, and there's problem-solving elements. So this is a new contribution to new knowledge. So you can see that this is PhD in EE. So I'm not talking that everyone should do this, okay? So this is a very novel study. So you contribute to new knowledge. Now we got something a bit lighter, okay? Now this our study to look at the characteristics of student-centered learning. From we want to look at how engineering lecturers understand student-centered learning or SCL. For us to do that, we need to have a certain principle or theories for us to measure the engineering lecturer's perspective. So in this study, we use HPL, How People Learn framework. So we use the How People Learn framework for us to compare the characteristic that they said when they asked them what is SCL, okay, or what they perceive as effective teaching. So they're going to list down all the characteristics of effective teaching. From there, we study the answers and map it with the How People Learn framework. And so we found out that there actually has a lot, when they talk about effective teaching and learning, they always come down to How People Learn framework. That actually they understand there's a best way of teaching, but they somehow they just didn't use it. So engineering lecturers recognize the characteristics of good teaching, effective teaching. That has to do with student-centered learning, because How People Learn framework is a lot to do with student-centered learning. And so we found that they actually agree with student-centered learning, but they just didn't practice. Not many of them practicing SCL. So this is how you use theory. I'm just giving you a snapshot of how you use theory in doing your study, right? And so these are just some examples, but I'm going to give more examples of research that we have done at CEE. Epistemological belief. Oh my God, this is a mouthful. But epistemological belief is something very interesting to very, very interesting to study. It's about what constitutes engineering knowledge. When we talk about engineering knowledge, so what constitutes engineering knowledge? This is one of studies that we are doing. For example, when we talk about talk about mechanical engineering. So we talk about in mechanical engineering, what are the topics, what are the knowledge, what are the pieces of knowledge they must learn if we say that they have mastered or they have studied mechanical engineering knowledge. So this is epistemological belief. Why it's important to study? Because at the end you will be able to help you to design the right curriculum for them to become a knowledgeable or what you call it, good mechanical engineer, for example. So this epistemological belief, the Dr. Noor Farah Wahida at CE, she is conducting a lot of research on that. Okay, teaching conception. Teaching conception is how the engineering lecturers perceive certain teaching, the method of teaching or the beliefs, okay, about teaching. So we have been studying how engineering lecturers looking at student-centered learning. When people say okay, let's do SCL, let's do student-centered learning, they say, yeah, I'm doing it. Okay, let's do active learning. Yeah, I'm doing it. What they did is just having discussion among the students, and they say I'm doing SCL. So we are not looking at just the practice, but also the belief, okay, and the attitude. So we interview our lecturers, we observe their classroom and see what they understand about SCL. So we end up, some of them, they actually say they know SCL and active learning, but actually they are not doing it, because if you say you're doing SCL, students will be learning that by themselves, or the learning will be a lot from the students. So they learn from the activities that you design for them. But we end up like a lot of our lecturers are just ensure that they being active in the class, but not actually learning, but being active. So this is what we're doing. We've been doing some of the studies. Engineering service learning, one of our champions in doing this is Dr. Azna. So we're looking at how our engineering students use the knowledge they learn at universities to serve the communities, to solve problems at community level. So we can get the engineering attributes from here. Design thinking, Dr. Fadil, Dr. Muhammad Fadil Daud. He is also one of our first PhD in EE graduates. So looking at how AutoCAD is being used for our students to learn design thinking. So he has been doing a lot of study in design thinking. There are steps to do design thinking and how students learn from there. Metacognition. Don't be bothered by the terms. Okay, metacognition just simply means thinking about thinking. Don't give up on the terms. Okay, cognition just means thinking. Metacognition means double the thinking. Okay, so thinking about the thinking. So now I'm thinking. So I'm also having some reflection or thought of my thinking just now. So for example, I'm reading some topics. I'm reading a text or reading something, and I have a upper level of cognition of thinking that monitor my reading. So I said, oh, do I understand what I'm reading? Hold on a second. I think I have read that somewhere else. Is this the way for me to learn this topic effectively? So there's a second level of thinking that control our thoughts. So this is metacognition. Prof. Haria and her PhD student Fazira, they are now venturing into how metacognition or metacognitive skills are being developed through her CPBL. So you can look at, she has now spin off from her CPBL from just the model, from that model, and now look at problem solving skills, look at how team working skill is developed, look at how professional skill is developed, look at how metacognition is developed. So you can keep on doing it. There's endless project you can do in EE research. Okay, to be honest. Obviously, problem solving. Yeah, Dr. Said, the one that I show you the thesis just now was Dr. Said Helmi. He's one of our expert in problem solving in engineering, doing the study of problem solving. Engineering mathematics, I want to introduce Dr. Yudaria. She is not an engineer, but she's actually a mathematician she taught mathematics at UTM for many years. Of course, she's retired now, but she's still with us. So what she studied is mathematics, the use of mathematics in engineering, how engineering students learn mathematics, the mathematical thinking among our engineering students. This is a very interesting topic. Engineering lab assessment, one of our colleagues, Dr. Naziha, she has developed how to assess engineering lab skill or practices. So you can look at what she has been studying. Women in engineering, very interesting. Why women become engineers, or why women choose not to become engineers, why women choose to study engineering but not become an engineer. So you want to know why. We have been working this with our friends in the US to study this. EST in engineering education, education for sustainable development in education. One of our champions is Dr. Mayuddin. He has been looking at designing engineering education curriculum with ESD. So you want to ensure that our engineers can be when they solve problems, when they design, they will include environment, social and economic factors into their design or solving the problems. So this is the importance of having ESD in EE curriculum. So there's a wide variety of topics that you can do at CE. You can always go to the website trade.utm.my to look at the variety of studies, the experts, and you can come talk to us, contact us, and see what we can do together. Okay, we welcome collaboration in terms of research, and also doing PhD also is important. All right. Now, this is a list of journals compiled by the Hong Kong University in engineering education. You don't have to look at the scopus, the open access, or this. Just look at the title and the website. So there's a variety. There's a lot of journals in EE, right? I'm very proud that our journal is there. Look at number 3, ASEAN Journal of Engineering Education. This is the journal from us. Okay, we started in 2012, if I'm not mistaken. Welcome to Have is open access. Okay, so some of these are very prestigious journals. The most prestigious journals that we can try to go is number 22nd, number 22, Journal of Engineering Education, JEE. This is a very rigorous. This journal publish research that are rigorous, new findings, new knowledge, new theories. So very good for us to have a look. So that's why you can go to the link down here to access the list. These are the columns on the right are not updated, but I'm sure the title and the website are still valid. Okay. Now this is our journal. Our journal papers are not rigorous as JEE just now. They are more towards experience sharing, scoring, experience sharing. Okay, so it's open access. Have a look. Come to you can click on the website and have a look at our papers. And if you remember Dr. Zaki just now, the one who started this webinar early on, he is one of our editors, and he has been working very hard to ensure that all the papers are reviewed and we get quick result from the review process. So really, I want to congratulate Dr. Zaki for doing what he has been doing. And so that's why we get a lot of, you can look at the names, and they're from different countries, not just from ASEAN countries, but from all over the world. We always try to ensure that the review process is as quick as possible. Okay, so this is our journal. I hope you can, if you're interested, you can always submit your paper to us. Come to the website, have a look, and submit to us your papers. Okay, now just trying to show you some examples of other studies. Now JEE, as I said, is a rigorous journal. They publish rigorous research in EE. Look at the topic: divergent thinking and academic performance of students with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, actually ADHD, characters in engineering. So they are looking at the performance of students with ADHD. Okay, this is the abstract. By the way, this is open access. Not all the papers in JEE are open access, but this one is open access. You can just read the papers for free. They're looking at creativity among ADHD students, okay, and also their achievement. So what they hypothesized was that they want to see if the students with ADHD are more divergent, more creative, or they are better in academic performance, and so on. So the study is very simple, right? But the way they formulate the problems and looking at the literatures are just extremely good. Okay, very deep, very critical and thoughtful for the problems and the literature. They only study 60 students using just one test and just their grade point average. That's it. So it's a very simple study. The data collection is very simple, okay, but the way they formulate problem is very impactful, because what they conclude is that at the end, ADHD characteristic negatively predict academic performance, which means that students with ADHD, okay, they may not be good with academic performance, but they are very good in divergent thinking, which is creativity. They can be very creative, but then they may not show in their results. So what should we do as engineer educators to help our students with ADHD? Okay, so the normal classroom, the normal teaching, the normal tests are no more valid for them to shine their potential as an engineer, because engineers should be creative, but they can be good engineers if we help them with their learning and make them more creative without just looking at just the score, the exam scores. So this is one of them. And then you can have empathy and engineering for formation. This is another paper you can have a look. It's basically looking at how empathy is, the role of empathy in our students in their design, in their learning of mechanical engineering design course. It's a it's a quite extensive study because it look at the reflections of 146 students. You have to read through 146 writing or called reflections written by the students, and to study their meaning making of experience. So you dig up what is empathy in the elements of empathy in their writing, and then you come up with a new model of how they develop empathies from the design work. So this is one of the study. So now you should do something about it. Okay, having listened to what we have talked about today, why not you choose any of the paper from JEE, from AJE, from or any other journals? The list of journal I've given you. Okay, so you have to do some homework. Honestly, just try to do the homework. I'm not going to mark your homework, okay? But you can always come back to me to discuss what you have learned. Okay, I'm open to that. All right. So you have download one of the journal papers. Okay, read it and just try to write down what problems are being identified in the paper. What is the conclusion from the literature review? What research method they used? What is the result of the data analysis, and what conclusion they have met in terms of the recommendation or implication or the summary of their studies. So just a very simple thing, get a piece of paper and write down all this so you can learn from how people do EE research. Okay, seriously, have a look, have a try, just try it. Okay, just try it. It's not a lot, just one paper. Okay. Okay, why you have to do this? I talk about the grant. Okay, I talk about the accurate position. I talk about the student you want to shape in the future. But really, if you're engineering educators, think about this. Okay, not me, but Straveler. Okay, Ruth. They designed this scholarship of teaching and learning. Okay, level 0 is teacher. We call it teacher because they teach as how they're being taught. Okay. But if you are better, level 1 is effective teacher. You teach using method that are accepted by theories and practices. So you actually look into how to be a good teacher, what are the effective teachings in terms of theories, the practices, and you try to implement in your own class. So that's level 1, effective teacher. Going a bit higher, we call it scholarly teacher. Beside you taking all these good practices that you have learned from other people, you also assess how good you are using those practices, and you check how effective you are in making your students to be improving yourself and also your students. So that's level 2, scholarly teacher. Number 3 is called scholar of teaching and learning. Now this is something serious. Okay, you're not just trying to be good in teaching. You're not just trying to assess your performance, but at the same time, you engage in some more rigorous research. Okay, you share the result. You let your colleagues or peers or other professionals to look at how you did it, and you learn from them together. You share the result and learn from them. Level 3. The highest level is what we call the EE researcher. Now, researcher, no more just teacher, but researcher. You conduct education research, you publish archival papers in top journals, impactful, high impact journals. You can design your own research, you can solve problems, you can come up with new knowledge. So this is level 4. And we can work together to get to level 4. Okay. You don't have to go through this level alone. We can do this together. Okay, that's what we've been doing at CEE for many years, and I think we'll continue the tradition for many years to come, hopefully. Okay, so that's why join us. I'm just gonna do a simple promotion. Seriously, this has been going for many years. This is, I think, our 10th, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, I'm so sorry, I can't remember. Prof. Haria will correct me later. I think this is our 10th conference doing it, where we gather people. Look at the title, RCE, Regional Conference in Education and Research in Higher Education. Why we have to combine two conferences? Because the first one, the RCE will usually gather people from engineering background, engineering educators. And the second will gather experts from higher education. from mainly education background experts. So by doing that, we can get people together and form a community of practice in terms of doing research, in improving practices. Okay, so this year we are doing it virtually. Anyone can join. You don't have to pay for your traveling. You don't have to pay for your accommodation. Just join us. We're gonna do some exciting thing using online apps. Okay, for this conference, online presentation, papers, workshops. Later, Prof. Harry will talk more about it. But seriously, find your own community or join communities that will help you to develop your EE research skill. Okay, or alternately, you can join workshop. This is a workshop we are conducting since last year, and we are doing the series. This is a module. You can have a look. You can join us if you wish to. If you want to learn more about how to do research in EE. And so, before we end today's session, maybe Prof. Haria, you want to take the second round of questions? Prof. Haria, are you there?
Yes.
Sorry.
I'm trying to get back.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so Prof. Fatin has shown. Okay, we have questions.
A good start. Yeah. So her question is, what is your recommendation for engineering educators to have a good start in engineering education research, especially in relation to all the relevant educational theories? Yes, you cannot avoid learning the theories. Okay, there's no way you can avoid learning the theories. For you to do that, I think Prof. Haida is doing a good start. She start reading the books, How People Learn. How People Learn book. Maybe I don't have the link, but I think the book is online, right? For free, right?
Yes, yes. Just Google How People Learn framework, Branford, BRANSFORD. So if you're looking at how students learn about teaching and learning, that's a good start.
Yep, because I understand some of my colleagues from engineering. When I talk about theories, they just become boring and it's like too much. You just have to understand. We learn the theories for many semesters. All right. There's no way that I can ask you to learn in a few hours of workshops. Okay, but reading the books, How People Learn, is a good start because it's very concise, and I think it is synchronized with engineers thinking, how engineers think. So it's not too wordy and it's easy to understand. Once you have understand that, then you will ask more questions and learn more, and so you can we have short courses on how you can understand all the educational theories, but that will take like half day to at least to get to know more about that. But if you have the interest, you can always read a lot of some books. That's How People Learn, and you can go also Google a paper by Newbie, comparing the three different learning theories. That will also be a good start for you to learn EE research if you want to be serious about the including the theories as your fundamentals in your study. Okay.
And join the community, because we have conferences, not just for paper presentations, but to meet other people who are like-minded people who we can be part of the community.
Okay. There's no question. In doing EE research, is it important to do experiments and get finding for the research, or is it possible to do only conceptual? Oh yeah, there are many ways. There are many types of paper. Like in your field of study in engineering, you always have review papers. You have research paper, original papers. Same in EE research. You can also have conceptual paper. But it will be like what we call, you can do systematic review paper, or you can do meta analysis paper, which I wouldn't recommend if you were just a beginner. Okay. What you're trying when you talk about conceptual paper in EE research, you are talking about synthesizing research in certain topics or areas, and you are trying to bring forward some new ideas or some new directions to do the study. So yeah, you can do that. You can do that.
You have to have proper theoretical grounding.
Yeah, it
And
won't be easy.
yes, actually conceptual papers will be quite difficult to write, especially for beginners.
Yep. So for beginners, I would strongly recommend to do scholarly research sharing, practice sharing, as you can as you can get yourself familiar and well versed with the writing of scholarly practice sharing papers. You can go on to do research in more rigorous studies, and once you get to that, you will be able to see why you want to write conceptual paper. Then you can start doing that if you really want to do that. Okay. Any other questions?
There's another question, I think, from the same person on YouTube. Yeah, okay.
Oh, powerful. Okay, I know how you mean a powerful. If you mean powerful to be cited by many people, obviously it's a review paper. Review paper will be cited by more people. Because I don't understand what you mean by powerful. Okay, if you mean powerful means like in terms of impactful, it depends on your paper. If your paper is answering some impactful questions or significant problems or contribution, obviously it's more powerful. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe for you understand this question more than me.
No, it depends. Just like what you said, it depends.
Yeah. I hope I answered the question. Is there any more question before we give the last question to our audience? Maybe there's no more questions.
Yep. So
Okay.
last question from us on Multimeter. Oh, there is one question.
One
Is
question.
there any difference or similarity between science education and engineering education?
Good question. Okay.
Mm.
I'm trained as I was a physics teacher, so sort of like a science teacher. So I'm trained like under the science education. And when I step into education, there's some similarity there, but they are not quite similar. Mainly it's because science education we talk more about concepts, how to learn scientific concepts which are quite abstract, concepts that are usually for fundamentals understanding. But in education, it's not like that. Education, you are talking about concepts and knowledge that are applicable, that you have to apply. It's not fundamental per se, but it's a lot to do with practice. And I have to learn a lot about education, which are not in science education. For example, in education, I have to learn a lot about the ABET, the Washington Accord. Okay, I have to know the accreditation. I have to know how engineer practice. I have to know all this. So there's some similarity in terms of, as I said, the cycle of doing studies, but the fundamental of science education and education would be quite different because they are dealing with different types of knowledge. Yeah. But in principle, to do research would be quite similar.
Okay, I think that can we look at the Mentimeter now, Dr. Johan?
All right. So this is last question from us. So what you from today's webinar, what you have learned about EE research. So we have different between science education and science. Okay, applicable in all fields as long as teaching and learning take place, not in engineering per se. Okay, just type anything you want to do it. You have to type two types of education, scholarly and okay.
Any more? It's going to take time.
I think it's that we just give them too much of information and things to think about. I hope it's not too overwhelming. I know for beginners it's quite a lot, okay, for you to take in. Okay. It's quite a lot for you to take in. But yes, as you said, theoretical education, the theory is mandatory. You need it. Yep, you need it to do EE research. So don't leave EE research without theories, because it would be quite it's a sin. it's a sin for you to do EE research without theories. Right? So yeah, so yes, do your homework, please.
Okay, that's one very interesting remark here by M. Noor. He's saying that in Australia, some other developed countries, engineering lecturers do both. This is normal. Actually, other parts of the world, like in the US, engineering education has been a very big area for more than 100 years.
Yep.
So in Asia, we started later. Malaysia is among the earliest to go into it seriously. Okay, there's some isolated pockets, but now we are trying to gather everybody together through the Society of Engineering Education Malaysia. And yeah, we are gaining ground, and we are seeing that there's more and more interest in engineering education in Malaysia. So do join us.
Yes, by the way, Prof. Haria is the president of Society for Education Malaysia.
Yeah, that's why I keep promoting it. But this is where we can have a community and talk about engineering education. And Prof. Fatin is also a committee member.
Yes. All right. So I think that's all from me. Once again, thank you so much. I always welcome questions and comments. You can find me on internet. Just email me whatever. And just keep in touch. Okay. Thank you so much. And thanks Prof. Haria for sharing this.
Thanks, Fatin. Thanks, Prof. Fatin. It's been really insightful. I'm sure everybody has learned a lot. By the way, it has taken me years to understand all those things.
That's why you cannot understand this just through this webinar. You may have lots of questions and lots of confusion from what we talk about. But yeah, if you want to seriously go for it, you have to invest some time and commitment towards it.
Yes, but it's a really, really interesting area, and it has a very high potential and very bright future, and it is really fulfilling because you can contribute so much through the research and the scholarly practice in engineering education. So it's really, really satisfying. Yeah. Okay, so back to our MC, Dr. Zaki.
Yeah, Zaki,
Okay,
welcome
wow.
back.
Yeah, welcome back. Wow, I can say that it's a very, very superb, wonderful, informative, insightful presentation. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
All
I
right,
can
okay.
hear you.
So, yeah, this is a very, very like a 1.5 hour, sorry, 1 hour 45 minutes presentation. But then, to share with the audiences, okay, I recently joined CE last year formally as a fellow, and then I joined the SEAM Center for Engineering Education Malaysia early this year, and then I joined Engineering Education Research Workshop 1, 2, and 3, and I am still learning a lot from this session. So this is a very good start for everybody who are here. Okay, so if you guys out there trying to think on how or what to do or how to start this research, just you can start by just contacting any of the CEE members or SEEM members or lecturers by simply visiting our website, CEE website. Okay, and then you can just contact us. We can discuss. Okay, we can suggest what to do or how to collaborate. At the same time, we would also like you to check out our journal, Asian Journal for Engineering Educators, AJEE. So there are a handful of journal papers there that you can start. Okay, you can start simply by the experience sharing. Okay, from there, the basic one. Okay, I would also like to, okay, before that, I want to thank you very much to Prof. Fatin for your time, and also Prof. Khairia for helping out, for facilitating the session. For me, it's a very good session, very, very beneficial session, very, very useful, and I believe the audiences are very, very thankful for this session. It's a very important session, okay? And then I want to announce that we are going to have another UTM CEE Webinar Series. next week, somewhere next week. Okay, this is developing problem solving skills using trees. Okay, this is going to be presented by Dr. Zul Hasni Abdul Rahim. He's from UTM KL. Okay, he is the expert for trees, and this is one UTM series webinar that you need to check out because it tells you how to search for the problem. Okay, problem solving skill and so on. So this is going to be very helpful for your for your engineering education research. Okay, last but not least, thank you very much for attending. If you have not subscribed to our UTM YouTube CEE channel, please kindly do so that you will not miss any update from us. Okay, with that, thank you very much. Have a nice day. Keep in touch. Stay tuned. Okay, happy doing.